Hello, welcome to another edition of 5-Minute FRQ, where I take you through an old AP Bio FRQ in 5 minutes or less. As always, this information is freely available on the College Board's AP Bio website, so if you have any questions, you can look it up. All right, this is question 8 on the 2017 AP exam, and again, on the current version of the AP exam, there are only 6 FRQs, so there will not be a number 8 on the current AP exam. All right, let's go. Estrogens are small hydrophobic lipid hormones that promote cell division and the development of reproductive structures in mammals. Estrogens passively diffuse across the plasma membrane and bind to their receptor proteins in the cytoplasm of target cells. All right, that prompt tells you a lot of what you need to know to answer the question. So A, describe one characteristic of the plasma membrane that allows estrogens to passively cross the membrane. So the question says that estrogens are small hydrophobic lipid hormones. So the two things that got credit for that was one, the plasma membrane allows things smaller to get through it because there are spaces between the phospholipids. The question tells you that estrogens are hydrophobic, and things that are hydrophobic, typically if they're small, get through this plasma membrane because the membrane itself has hydrophobic regions in the middle, in those fatty acid tails. If you look at what the rubric accepts, it accepts either that the membrane itself is hydrophobic or nonpolar. You didn't even have to say that it was the fatty acid tails, or that there's space between the phospholipids, which allow things that are small to get through. All right, part B. In a laboratory experiment, a researcher generates antibodies that bind to purified estrogen receptors extracted from cells. The researcher uses the antibodies in an attempt to treat estrogen-dependent cancers, but finds that the treatment is ineffective. Explain the ineffectiveness of the antibodies for treating estrogen-dependent cancers. So you don't have to know what I'm about to say to get the question right, but antibodies are large proteins, and it's unlikely that the antibodies can even get through the plasma membrane. All right, that's the problem right there. The question says that the researcher generates them from the receptors that are inside the cell. So they remove the receptors from the cell and then make antibodies that bind to them. But why doesn't that work to treat the cancers? Well, in order for the antibodies to bind to the receptors, they have to get inside the cell, and they're too big. So why is it ineffective? If you look at what the rubric accepts, so this is worth 2 points. On the current AP exam format, usually a bold word gives you a point. That's worth 1 point on the rubric. In this case, the exclamation was worth 2 points, even though only one word is bolded. Probably on the current exam, every bolded word is worth a point that's in the prompt. Okay, so look at what they accepted. So the antibodies are unable to enter the cell. And again, knowing that antibodies are large molecules is helpful to know. And then the second thing you had to say is the extracellular antibodies will not bind to the intracellular estrogen receptors. So the treatment, the receptors might bind to the antibodies in a test tube, but it doesn't work in the cell because the antibodies can't get into the cell, which is the first point, and therefore they can't bind to the receptors, which again are inside the cell. Okay, hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.